When we arrived, the first thing that we saw was a 3-bedroom house built with iron sheets. And the second thing we were looking for is that, where is the toilet? To our surprise, there was no toilet. We struggled with that thought of not having our own toilet in our own compound. So our father had already organized with his friend who was our neighbor that we could have access to the toilet if we need to, because it was just across from our land. So we had to adjust to that. But as days went by, we had the surge to have our own toilet, because at moments you could have had a running stomach at night and you wanted to go to the toilet, and it looked inappropriate to go and wake someone up during the middle of the night to tell them only that you want to enter into their toilet. So it was hard, but we had to adjust because there was no means to what we had. Now we encountered another obstacle, because I told you that I was about to sit for my KCP at that time. But the problem was that where I was, I could not access any reading materials. So with whatever that I had to put things together in order that I will be able to revise, and perhaps in the end, when the time comes, I will go and sit for my KCP. Then, as we are approaching times in order for me to go and sit for my KCP, there came an obstacle. There were no funds. We had like almost less than 3 weeks for the examinations to begin. And then the question was always lingering, how will I perform? Because remember, for the whole third term, I hadn't attended any classes. So I was just going to school in order to fill that space that I had already created, because at the back of my mind I was also telling myself, maybe I should just call it quits for this year, and maybe next year I'll try again for the KCP. So I had two things in mind.
2,000 years later.
Luckily, the stars started to align when we had like less than 3 days to the rehearsals. We got the funds and I was able to go for the rehearsals. So that Monday, we traveled from Machakos to Nairobi County. And once we arrived, I got a good reception from the teachers. And I entered the class, we were briefed. I had gone with everything that I needed. Back then we used to use a clipboard. You had to have a set, then have your pencils and your pen to write your names. So I had all the things to do, but we faced one other obstacle, because I couldn't travel from Machakos to Nairobi. Otherwise, I could have missed my examinations. So we had to look for alternative in order for me to stay close to the school, in order for me to sit for the examinations, because the examinations were to begin on a Tuesday and end on a Friday. So for those days, I had to look for somewhere to stay. Luckily, I found my friend. My friend was called Ben at that time. So they were not living far from the school. It was just a matter of 15 minutes. So we talked with his father and he allowed me to stay there. So the only thing that we had to do was that my dad was to provide funds in order for us to have a meal for those following days. And we came to a census and it was agreed, and that's how I slept there for the duration of that time till I finished my exams.